Okay, welcome. Tonight's meeting is on how to make your own holistic medicinal kit. And as our special guest speaker, slip into my screen.
Oh, sorry.
Tammy Olsen is our guest speaker tonight, and she's one of our fellow residents here in Woodland Hills. So in case you guys have any problems with this presentation, you can look up her address and go visit her later.
Well, thank you guys for coming tonight. I appreciate it. I stewed over what to do. So this is really basic, really beginner level. Okay, so if you have questions that are more intermediate or advanced level, I can answer them. But I didn't want to overwhelm people tonight. So I do have books up here, so at the end, if you want to come up and look at any of these books, you're welcome to. This is just a sample of the books that I have at my house. And with that, we'll start. All right, so if I get the first slide. Okay, so here's the disclaimer. All the information provided in this presentation is for educational and informational purposes only, and solely as a self-help tool for your own use. All the information is presented in good faith and for general information only. I am not a licensed medical professional, and this presentation is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment provided by your own medical provider or mental health provider. Okay? Is that okay with everyone? Okay, thank you. All right, we can move on. We'll talk about it here in a second. This is just something I put in kind of at the last minute. It's a scripture. When I looked up herbs in the scriptures, there are scriptures about herbs in every one of the scriptures that we use. Okay? This one just happens to come from the book of Alma. And there were some who died with fevers, which at some seasons of the year were very frequent in the land, but not so much with fevers because of the excellent qualities of the many plants and roots which God had prepared to remove the cause of the diseases to which men were subject by the nature of the climate. I was like, the seasons, right? We're in a specific winter cold season where things like to go around. And so I guess people in other lands and in other cultures have the same thing. So I thought this was interesting. Okay, next slide. All right, so we're going to start with essential oils, and then we'll move on to herbs. So essential oils. Does anybody know what an essential oil is? Can anybody answer that for me? Maria.
It's the oils extracted from plants.
Okay, yes, and doTERRA, right? I use doTERRA. So highly concentrated substances, they've been used for thousands of years. The Chinese have used them, the Egyptians use them, the Romans use them, the Greeks. They've been used, like I said, for thousands of years. They are natural substances created by plants. And the reason why plants make essential oils is kind of the same reason why we would want to use essential oils. So the plants make them to protect themselves from disease, to protect themselves from invaders, bugs, that kind of thing. They are also really good for helping the plant to rejuvenate itself and to propagate itself. So we get the benefit of using these substances, these constituents that the plants make. And there are different reasons or different ways that we can extract these substances, these constituents from the plants. Some are steam distilled, some are cold pressed. Those are the biggest two ways that how we get an essential oil. So these constituents that the plants make support the plant. They can also support our bodies. Okay, plants were made for us, for our food, for medicine, for dye, for all kinds of different things. So how essential oils support the body? They can promote relaxation, a feeling of calm. They can decrease stressful feelings. They can support a healthy immune function and also healthy digestion, healthy circulation, respiration, muscle and joint function, and soothe skin irritation. Okay, this is just a a little list of all the things that they can do, but this is what we're going to talk about mainly tonight. All right, essential oil safety is really important. In this little bottle, there are about 240 drops of, this one is wild orange, of orange essential oil. That comes from the rind of the orange, okay? You always, well, most of the time you would want to dilute an essential oil. Now this doesn't mean that it dilutes the potency or anything, you're just putting it with a carrier oil. This is a blend, a carrier oil blend that I use, but you can use olive oil, which is also really good for the skin. You can use coconut oil, you can use almond oil, you can use jojoba oil, almond oil. There are lots of different oils, carrier oils, that you can use to put an essential oil in, and we'll talk about the reasons why we would want to do that. These essential oils are not for the eyes or the ears. Has anybody in here ever had an experience with an essential oil where they were using it and then touched their eye? Okay, it doesn't feel really awesome. We're going to talk about how to take care of that if it does happen. So don't ever put essential oil in your eyes or in your ears or in a sensitive part of your body. That's
Or just too close to your eyes. I just did it in my temple and it got too close.
right, well, because it kind of runs down in the creases, yeah. Okay, with essential oils, more is not better, okay? These are little tiny bottles, but the drops are really, really powerful. In fact, if you were to take 1 drop of this peppermint essential oil, it equals 27 cups of peppermint tea if you were to make that using dried herbs. Okay, so that's a lot of peppermint tea if you're, using the herb. So a little bit goes a long way. Okay, we don't want to do the American, if a little is good, a lot is better. Doesn't apply with the essential oils. You don't ever want to buy essential oils from big box stores. I didn't want to put, a name on the slide. Don't ever buy them at Walmart. Or anything like that, because the essential oils can very easily be replicated using chemicals. They found the molecules and they can replicate them synthetically very easily. They will not have the same benefit, even though it's technically the same molecule, as an essential oil that comes purely from the plant. So if you see a really good deal on essential oil, it's not a good deal because it's probably more harmful than anything else. So just be careful with your essential oils, and if you have any questions, you can always ask me. There are lots of good brands of essential oils and some really not good brands. You get what you pay for. Essential oils don't mix with water. So if you were to ever get an essential oil in a sensitive location on your body, you wouldn't ever want to try to splash water on your face or somewhere else to get it off. It won't work. The water will actually drive the essential oil molecules into your skin even faster and deeper. So what you want to use, if that ever happens, is a carrier oil, and you put it over the top, and it dilutes it. So the molecules of essential oils are super teeny. The molecules in a carrier oil are much bigger. And so those little tiny molecules get absorbed into the big molecules. And we'll talk a little bit more about how to use that in a little bit. But always, please consult your PCM about any medications that you might be taking that might contraindicate an essential oil. I know a lot of people have questions about certain medications and grapefruit essential oil. Okay,
What's a PCM?
your primary care medical advisor. Yes. So, thank you. Okay, so just be wise when you're working with essential oils or herbs and any medications that you might be taking. All right, so how do we use an essential oil? We can use an essential oil essentially 3 different ways: aromatically, topically, and in very specific instances, internally. Okay, but you have to be very careful. So aromatically, what we would do is we could just open the bottle. and smell it. So what I'm going to do for you guys is send this around. If you want, put a drop in your hand and rub it around and just inhale. You're welcome to. If you don't, then just pass it on. You can also use a diffuser like this one. This one has a little bit of water, and I put a little, like 3 drops of peppermint and 3 drops of wild orange in this diffuser. And I don't know if you guys could smell it when you came in. Could you smell it when you came in? I love the combination of peppermint and wild orange. It's very invigorating, so it's really good for a class. So you can use direct inhalation like you would. Yes, ma'am.
Does it make a difference how much water is in the diffuser? Like I have an air purifier that has quite a bit of water.
So the question was, does it matter what kind of, or how much water? No, it doesn't matter. I mean, it really just depends on the diffuser, how much water it holds. Usually there's a maximum line that you want to fill the water to. If you have something at home that's a humidifier or something along those lines, then just make sure that the manufacturer says that you can use essential oils in it, because a lot of times essential oils break down plastic very easily over time. So if your manufacturer says don't use essential oils in a humidifier or something like that, then you wouldn't want to use it in that. You would want to find something different, like a diffuser. There's so many different kinds of diffusers out there too. Topically, you can use direct application to your skin. We call it neat when you just put a drop on your skin, and like you guys are doing right now, where you're putting a drop in if you want and smelling it. That would be a neat application. Or, like I said, you could dilute it with a carrier oil. So if you wanted to dilute it with a carrier oil, and there are lots of reasons why we would want to do that, then you'd put the carrier oil in your hand or in a teaspoon or a tablespoon, and then put a drop of the oil in and then use it that way. Or you could actually mix the drops of essential oil into a carrier oil in another bottle or something, or in a cup, and then use it that way. So why would we want to use, yes ma'am?
Can you use all essential oils undiluted topically?
No. So the question is, do we want, or can we use all essential oils undiluted topically? And the answer is no. There are some essential oils that are very, very strong that we wouldn't want to use without diluting them. Some of them that I can think of off the top of my head are oregano, cinnamon, lemongrass, and there are some others as well.
Oregano.
Yeah, oregano for sure. Yeah. So essentially, you would want to use essential oils in a carrier oil if you have a large area that you're trying to use it for. Let's say I work out too hard at the gym and I have really sore leg muscles, right? One little drop of essential oil isn't going to go very far if I'm trying to rub it on my leg, right? So it's a great way to put that drop of essential oil in a carrier oil, and then I can spread it over a larger area. Now, the great thing about diluting an essential oil, remember I said it doesn't dilute the potency. It just makes it so that the little tiny molecules are within the big molecules of the carrier oil. It's kind of like time release, almost, where it's on your skin, those little molecules are in the bigger molecules, and as the bigger molecules are being absorbed, thank you, Mom, absorbed into the skin, then it takes longer to do it. And a lot of times when you use an essential oil neat on your skin, a lot of those constituents flash off really quickly. And so you don't absorb all of the constituents that you might want to. Okay? You could also use carrier oil for little children and older people that have really thin skin or sensitive skin. You would want to always use a carrier oil with them. Yes, ma'am.
Is there a formula of X amount of drops to X amount of oil?
There is a formula, and I can get that to you later if you'd like. But you can always, well, Most of the time it's safe to use 1 drop to about a tablespoon of oil, of carrier oil. You can go a little bit more than that depending on who the person is, but for little children and older people that have thin skin or sensitive skin, then 1 drop per tablespoon is good. Any other questions about that? Okay. So internal use is really kind of tricky, and it's up to each person individually, honestly. I use essential oils internally. I cook with them. I put them in beverages. A lot of times I'll put a drop of lemon essential oil in my water and drink it. It's good for digestion. And so it really just depends on the person, if they feel comfortable doing it. If they feel like they know what they're doing, you don't want to take a lot internally. The difference between putting it in your skin or on your skin and taking it internally, on your skin gets absorbed into your bloodstream really quickly, okay? If you take it internally, it goes through your digestive tract and then gets processed through your liver. So a lot of times if people are taking too many essential oils internally, it's really hard on their liver to filter all of that. Okay, so we want to be very judicious. And you also want to be very careful of the brand of essential oil that you take internally. So, for example, on this bottle of lavender, there's a supplement fact on the back. Okay, the supplement fact lets you know that this oil is on the GRAS standard, so the generally regarded as safe, and it can be used internally if it's a really good source. I personally love doTERRA essential oils because I know that they're tested. Every single bottle you can check online, every batch, to see what the chemistry was when it went in the bottle. doTERRA really likes to make sure that they have every single bottle as much the same as they possibly can. So a bottle of lavender that I got 10 years ago is pretty darn close to this bottle of oil that I just got. Okay, and that's really important to them. So they do all kinds of testing that a lot of other companies don't do. And we could go into all kinds of crazy things about scans and chirality and all kinds of chemical terms, but I trust these oils. So, any questions about that? Yes, ma'am.
How long does it last?
How long does it last? So a bottle of, most of these oils will last you pretty much until they're gone.
Do they become rancid?
The only ones that you have to worry about really are the citrus oils, or the cold pressed oils, because they're not steam distilled. So the cold pressed oils that come from the rind, so lemon, lime, orange, grapefruit, bergamot, petitgrain, maybe, those probably have a shelf life once you open them of about 3 years. Yeah, plus or minus, but about 3 years for those. But the rest of them, no. I mean, they found in Egyptian tombs, they've found myrrh and frankincense and some other essential oils that were still good when they pulled them out. So pretty crazy. All right, so we're going to talk about some of the beginner oils. Okay, so I passed around peppermint to everyone. What did you guys think of the peppermint?
It's burning my eyes.
Would you like some carrier oil?
No, I mean, I can just feel it because everybody's used it.
Yes, for sure. Everybody's used it. Okay, so we're going to talk about lavender. Lavender is steam distilled from the flowers. Okay. Lavender is good for so many things. I can't even really go over them all, but we could look some things up if you wanted to. But normally people use it for burns. They use it for skin issues. They use it for anxious feelings. It's very calming. And also for sleep issues. So a lot of times people will put it in a diffuser and diffuse it while they sleep, and it helps them sleep. Or putting it on the bottoms of your feet. So essential oils on the bottoms of your feet are great because the molecules are absorbed through the body and go where they need to go. So that's pretty cool. That's lavender. Peppermint, we just talked about peppermint a little bit. Peppermint is very invigorating, as you guys can tell, and it's very cooling. It's used for digestion. It's used for muscle aches and congestion, and used for energy.
So you can actually eat it. The oil, you put it in water and...
Yes, if you wanted to put a drop in water and drink it, you could. A lot of times people will put a drop in some warm water with some honey and lemon and drink it that way if they have any digestive issues, but you can also put it on topically. Yeah.
I have to admit, I licked it.
Yeah, licking it is great. Yeah, it's perfect to lick it as well. Peppermint is really great in the summertime if you're hot. If you just put it on the back of your neck, if you're really, really hot, it helps to cool you down. So, frankincense. If anybody wants to smell, does anybody want to smell frankincense? Okay, I can send it around. Frankincense is really good. They call it the Swiss Army knife of essential oils. It's kind of a toss-up between lavender and frankincense, which one you might use more. But frankincense is steam distilled from the resin of the frankincense tree. And
For us to get, say, lavender.
yeah. Excuse me? Oh, it's harder to get maybe than lavender, let's say. Lavender is easy to grow. We can grow it here, easily done. Frankincense comes from the Middle East. So Oman, Somalia, Ethiopia, not places that a lot of people like to go right now. Yeah, so it's more difficult to get. But frankincense is used for inflammation. It's also used for skin. It's used for people, have anxious feelings, might use that. Brain function, it's very good for that as well. So a lot of people use it for brain function. But so many things. This book right here I love because it talks about how to use all the essential oils and maybe some bodily issues that you could address with different things. Frankincense has been used for thousands of years, but there have been so many research studies done, published research studies that you can find, probably thousands of them, on frankincense and using them in different ways to help the body. Okay, tea tree. Most people have heard of tea tree or melaleuca. This bottle says melaleuca. They've changed to the tea tree now. But tea tree is also steam distilled. It comes from the leaves. It's not my favorite smell, but it's really, really good for skin issues. It's an antifungal. It's really good for enhanced immunity.
So is it a mixture of herbs, or no, it's just tea tree?
This is just tea tree oil.
But it says
So Melaleuca alternifolia is the Latin binomial. It's the Latin binomial name for it. And so tea tree is the common name for it. So it's the same thing, it's just they changed the name.
So they did change it, because it's been Melaleuca for a long time. When my 22-year-old boys were babies, it was Melaleuca.
Yeah. And now they just call it tea tree.
Okay.
Yeah.
And there's another company called Melaleuca.
Yeah, there is another, yeah. So also really good for inflammation, and it's just a really great oil to have on hand.
Good for cold.
Good for colds, yep, for sure. Eucalyptus, oh, go ahead, yes, ma'am.
How would you use that then? Is that one that you can use in your water then?
Tea tree, you can use it in your water. It's not a yummy taste.
So it's not like it doesn't. So then how would you use that if you were trying to do it for like inflammation?
For inflammation or for immunity, I would either put it on the bottoms of my feet, or you could dilute it and like rub it on your neck, your throat, your upper chest, that kind of thing. Yes, ma'am.
Use it for acne.
Oh, acne, yes.
Inflammation and fungal, it's like, we actually love the smell.
Yeah, I don't mind.
Some people like it, but yeah, it's really great for skin issues, all kinds of different skin issues for sure. So yeah, thank you for that. Okay, eucalyptus is also really good for seasonal issues. Now this one, you'll notice if you look on the bottle, eucalyptus does not have a supplement fact. So you wouldn't want to take that one internally. Okay, yes?
I have learned a little bit about tea tree, but I thought tea tree was not safe to take internally. So I don't know if maybe doTERRA is different or not, but I thought it was actually pretty harmful.
If you, as we talked about before, let's see, who has the tea tree bottle? Does it have a supplement fact on it?
Yes.
Yes. So tea tree or Melaleuca alternifolia is actually on the GRAS list. It's on the generally regarded as safe list in small amounts. You wouldn't want to take it in large amounts, and you really want to be careful of the brand that you're using. So I wouldn't take a ton internally, just like I wouldn't take a ton of all of these internally, but a little bit goes a long way. So some people will put it in a gel cap, a little empty vegetable capsule. They'll put tea tree, they'll put tea tree, frankincense, lemon, maybe lemongrass, and maybe even like a cinnamon, and they will take that during cold and flu season to boost their immunity.
Okay, that was my question about enhanced immunity. So would you take one of these, 2 or 3 of them? Because several of them are good for that.
Yeah.
Would you mix them?
It really just depends on you.
Just say, okay, I'm just going to use this one
Yeah.
and just
So
see how that works for you, or
I think starting out, it's a really good idea to maybe just try one. Try 1 or 2 and just see how they work for you. People who have been doing this for a while feel comfortable mixing,
So how
And
do
so-
you about blends? Like if there's an immunity one, and then it's probably blended by 2 or 3 that have
Right.
properties for that.
Yes, I love blends. I do blends all the time. I love blends. It's nice because you don't really have to think about blending your own essential oils for what you need.
Yeah,
It's already done. And you know that it's been tested and pure, and it's awesome. So I love blends. I didn't bring any blends tonight, but there are several really good blends out there. Yes, ma'am.
Michelle's question about immunity, it's a pretty broad term, just like brain function.
Yes.
Frankincense good for dementia?
So because I'm not a medical professional, I have to be a little bit more generic, right? So that's why I've chosen the words that I've chosen, so that they can be FDA compliant.
So you're telling me to do my research?
You can ask me personally.
What blends are your favorite?
What blends are my favorite? With doTERRA, I love On Guard.
On Guard? Okay.
I love, and if anybody uses Young Living, that would be the same as Thieves.
These?
I mean, they're a little different, but that's what they call it, Thieves. I love Breathe from doTERRA. That's a combination, Breathe, of tea tree and eucalyptus and I'm thinking of the Latin binomials.
Breathe, you can't hear.
No, Breathe you don't want to take internally.
Did you say these before that?
Thieves is the Young Living version of On Guard. Yeah. Yeah. DigestZen is really good for any digestive issues. So there are some really good blends that doTERRA has. I don't love lavender all by itself, but doTERRA has a really nice blend called Serenity that has lavender and chamomile and some other nice oils in it that are really good for calming down, for going to sleep, those kind of things. So.
When you're putting these on your skin, do you need to slice them with another oil or no?
So yeah, for sure. Most of the time, if you're going to put them on your skin, I would dilute them with a carrier oil.
Okay.
All right, good questions. Anything? Yeah, Trina.
When you dilute them with carrier oil, how long will those last time-wise?
How long would it take to absorb?
Or no, like before they become rancid?
Now the carrier oils are going to become rancid more often than the essential oils for sure. Just, oils, olive oil goes rancid, coconut oil goes rancid over time. It just depends on which carrier oil. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I also like to use a roller bottle, so they're usually about 10 milliliters, and I'll put the drops of oil that I want in that little roller bottle, and I'll fill it up the rest of the way with a carrier oil, and then roll it on my skin.
So what's your percentage?
So usually, just starting out, I would do 1 drop per about tablespoon. If you're just starting out. So, good questions. All right, and then the last one that I put on the slide is lemon. Lemon is just happy. This is like liquid sunshine. I know Marie and I were talking about dandelion, and we'll get to dandelion in the herbs, but lemon is like liquid sunshine. It just smells good, it's happy. Pass that one around. It's really good for enhanced immunity and energy and uplifting. It's very uplifting, and it's a really good cleanser. So I like to use lemon. Anybody ever stick their fingers together with super glue? Nobody wants to admit it. It's a really good way to unstick your fingers without tearing your skin off. Okay, lemon. If I had a styrofoam cup here, I'd show you. I don't like styrofoam, so I don't have styrofoam in my house. But if you drop lemon or orange, but lemon especially, on styrofoam, it'll eat right through it. It eats through petrochemicals, which is why if you're going to put it in your water to drink, always use glass. Don't use a plastic water bottle, because it'll actually degrade the plastic and you'll be drinking plastic molecules. So always use glass or stainless steel if you're going to put an essential oil in your water and drink it. Okay? So, all right, let's move on to herbs. Okay, so herbs. So these are I just kept making my list longer and longer for you guys, but we've talked a little bit about lavender, what lavender is good for. Now remember, the essential oils are very, very concentrated. So when you're using dried herbs, they're not as concentrated as essential oils, and so you can use more, right? Lavender, we talked about what that's good for. Peppermint, we've talked about what that's good for. Calendula. Calendula is a flower, and you use the flower petals. You can dry them, and it's really good for making salves and ointments. It's really good for the skin. Echinacea is also a flower. What's it also called? Coneflower. Thank you. It's really good for skin as well, and also immunity. Garlic. Okay, so garlic is good to cook with, but it's also good for you. And it's very antiviral, very antifungal. Mullein. I have a picture of mullein that I'm going to show you guys. Mullein grows around here. A lot of people think it's a weed, but it's so good for you. Mullein, when COVID started, I had mullein growing in my backyard, and I was so excited because I was able to go harvest the leaves and dry them, and then as people started to get upper respiratory things, I would give them the mullein leaves, and they could do it, make them into a tea and drink it, and it really helped people's lungs. It's very good for respiratory things. Okay, that's the leaves that we're talking about. The roots of the mullein plant are really good for urinary issues. Okay, urinary and prostate issues. And then the flowers, the stalk that comes up the second year from the mullein plant, the little yellow flowers, if you pick those, we're going to talk about a garlic and mullein oil that's really good for earaches, so ear infections. And I have a handout for you guys so you can make your own if you wanted to. So the whole plant is really good. It's a biannual plant, meaning the first year it just leaves out on the ground, and that's a really good time to pick the leaves and dry them. and also to get the root. And then the second year is when the stalk comes up. So that's when you can harvest the flowers, is when the stalk comes up. But mullein, you'll recognize it as soon as you see it. You'll be like, oh.
I've been thinking that as a week.
Yes, but it's so good for you. All right, fennel. Fennel is really good for digestive issues. So is ginger. And yarrow, I have seen yarrow around here. Yeah, you grow yarrow? Yarrow is really good for stopping bleeding and any external bleeding. It's really good for that. It's also good for immunity as well, the flowers. Plantain. Who knows what plantain is here, other than the banana? It's not the banana. Plantain looks like a weed. In Pennsylvania, where I grew up, it made up probably 50% of our yard. But plantain, and I have a picture of that as well. It's really good if you get a bug bite or a bee sting, or you need to draw anything out. It's really good if you make a poultice of it for boils or skin infections. It's really good for drawing out that. So if you're out hiking or something and you see a plantain plant and you get a bug bite or something and you grab a leaf and chew on it and stick it on there, it will help to make it feel better. Tobacco is good too, yeah. Probably not, yeah. Tobacco is also good for bruises, yeah. Elderberries. Elderberries are really good for immunity.
Where do you find elderberries?
Pennsylvania.
Yeah, they grow all over the hillsides of Payson Canyon.
Really? Do they? Awesome. So you could, do you? I have some plants that I'm growing, and they should grow around here if they grow in Payson Canyon. Did you? Okay, awesome. So you can juice elderberries. You don't want to eat the leaves or the stems. Those are toxic. But the berry, if you juice it or cook it, is really good for your immune system. So you can make an elderberry syrup, and I have a recipe for that. Golden seal is also a really, really good herb for immunity. Chamomile is very soothing. Purslane. Now, I had purslane growing. Most of you are going to think this is a weed, too, that you've most likely seen in your yard. Very, very nutritious. So it tastes kind of lemony. If you eat it, you can put it in salads, and it's very nutritious.
Are there any of these that deer don't like?
Yeah, we'll talk about that here in a second. Dandelion. All of you guys know what dandelion is, but you can use all of the dandelion. Dandelion root is really good for your liver. Dandelion leaves are very good. My grandma used to make, she'd say, I'm going to make a mess of dandelion leaves. In the springtime, she would go pick the young leaves when they weren't so bitter, cook them, or maybe steam them a little bit, and then eat them. And it was a really good after winter detox. So eating young dandelion leaves in the summer or in the springtime is really good. Yes, Mom?
Actually, she didn't cook the leaves or steam them or anything.
Oh, she didn't? She just ate them?
She made the gravy, the sauce, and then she put that over it and it wilted up.
Oh, okay.
Hot sauce
Cool. Okay.
with bacon and whatever.
All right, yes. Thank you.
I'm talking to somebody on a trip that we were on, and they said that dandelions make you drunk.
Only if you make them into wine.
They said that that's what the bears would eat, and that they would be fine because it just makes them drunk.
Okay, I've never heard that unless someone's made dandelion wine, which I know that's a thing. I know Maria was saying she made dandelion jelly.
And I did not get drunk off of it.
So I've never heard that you can get drunk off of dandelions. Just maybe there's something about bears that makes it different in their body chemistry than us. But I do know that you can eat dandelion flowers as long as they haven't been sprayed with pesticide. So if you're
Along the road.
don't eat them along the road. No, for sure. If you're gonna eat dandelions, I would find a place that you know hasn't been sprayed and is not along the road, because it will absorb, like the heavy metals and stuff from the exhaust. So don't do that. If you're gonna wildcraft dandelions, then make sure you have a good source.
So you just take your dandelion digger and go along and pop them up?
Absolutely, if you haven't sprayed your yard, yeah, for sure.
I won't let my husband spray our yard, and I go out and pick them all the time.
Yeah, for sure, because they're really good for you. So, and then lemon balm. I added this one. It was a late add because lemon balm grows really well here too. And lemon balm is so good. It's an antiviral. It's really good for anxious feelings, and people use it for kind of an uplift all the time. So,
Do you have a picture of it too?
you know what? I don't, but I know there are pictures in here we can find for sure. It does look very similar to mint. So, there is a lemon balm essential oil. It's very expensive because there's not a lot of yield that comes out of that plant, but it's worth its weight in gold for.
What it's called, because it has a different name in doTERRA. Are they still using Melissa?
It is Melissa. So Melissa officinalis is the Latin binomial for lemon balm.
And what's it again? How's it spelled?
Melissa, just like the name,
Like the name Melissa?
and then officinalis, official. Yeah. It is super expensive, but one drop goes a long way. And if you're interested, I can tell you, what it's really good for. All right, next. So how to use herbs in your medicinal kit. You can make tinctures. Tinctures are made either with an alcohol or a vegetable glycerin, typically sometimes with apple cider vinegar. And what it does is you put the plant material inside either the alcohol or the glycerin or the apple cider vinegar, and it extracts the constituents, the healthy constituents from the plant. And then you strain off the plant material and just use the liquid. Now, if you're using a tincture, probably you've seen, tincture bottles or whatever, you're only using drops at a time. So even if you're using, it depends on the herb really, what alcohol you would want to use, because different herbs are extracted with different alcohols. And the reason that they use alcohol is because one, it extracts the constituents really well, and two, because those little tiny drops, 1 or 2 drops usually at a time of a tincture, the alcohol takes it straight to your liver. And so a lot of times that's what your body needs in order to get it out to the body. Okay? You can make a salve. Salves are super easy to use, super easy to make. And I've put some recipes on the handout for you to make. Salves are usually really good for skin, any kind of skin issues. Okay, so teas, tisanes, and decoctions. Tea, really, if you're going to go by the strict definition of tea, is the black tea plant or the Camellia officinalis. So black tea, green tea, oolong tea, and white tea all come from the same plant. It just depends on how it's harvested and how it's dried, as whether you get green tea or black tea or white tea or oolong tea. So that's by definition a tea. A tisane is when you take an herb, either dried or fresh, and you drink it with hot water. That's what a tisane is. So when we put peppermint herb in a cup and pour hot water on it and then drink it, that's by definition a tisane. Decoction is the same thing, only you're using like the woody plants. Burdock root would be a decoction. Oat straw would be a decoction. Horsetail, anything that's really woody or has a thick stem to it, you would put it in a pot and you would simmer it for a while in order to extract what you wanted to get the benefit from that. So that's a decoction. Capsules, we talked a little bit earlier with our essential oils, but we can also do this with herbs. You can powder your herbs and make your own capsules with empty vegetable capsules. You can make syrups. Syrups are really good for coughs. I have a ginger peppermint syrup on here. I didn't put it on, but a horehound syrup is really good for a cough. Elderberry syrup, there is a recipe for that on the handout for, even if you take just a teaspoon a day of elderberry syrup during this time of year as a precaution, that's really good. And then poultices. Poultices are really good for things that might be kind of long-term or longer lasting. I know if you had like a boil or something like that you would want a poultice on for a little while, that would help to extract the things that you would want into your skin for some healing. Any questions on how we can use herbs? You can also use them, like we were talking about, dandelions. You can use them in salads. Purslane, you can use them in salads. You can use them in cooking. Peppermint, people use peppermint all the time in cooking. So ginger, garlic, onion even. I didn't put onion on there, but onion is also a really good healing herb. So those are all different ways that we can use our herbs. Okay, next slide. So I just put up here, next two slides, some common ailments and how we might be able to use herbs and essential oils. So if you had a sore throat, you could use some sea salt in a glass of water and gargle with it, and that would help. You could also gargle with an echinacea tincture or an echinacea tea. Calendula and golden seal teas are really good for gargling for throat things. And then elderberry syrup. Taking some elderberry syrup would help you. If you had bladder issues, you could and should drink lots of water. You could take cranberry juice or pills. Cranberry juice, I would be careful not to get something that's really sugary. I would find the more natural ones. And you can find them, sometimes you can find them at the grocery store where they're sweetened with like an apple juice instead of sugar. And those are the ones I would use if you're going to drink the juice. They do have cranberry pills. You'd also want to probably think about golden seal. That's also really helpful for the urinary tract. Uva ursi is a good one for the bladder. And berry is also really good. And juniper berry. Those, I didn't put that one on there, but that is also really good for bladder. You can find mixtures of these herbs in like Good Earth or Whole Foods where they would combine them all, and that would be really good too. Ear. If you or children or grandchildren have earaches, then you could use dry heat on it to help them feel better. I would use like a salt bag or a rice bag or something that you could heat up, but didn't get so hot that you certainly don't want it to be so hot it would burn them. And then lavender and tea tree oil massage around the ear. You never want to put an essential oil inside the ear, so you would put it around the ear and down the eustachian tube. That's just to kind of get those fluids going and absorbing.
I put it on a cotton ball with the carrier oil and then put it.
Yeah, you can do that too. Yeah, as long as it doesn't go inside your ear, down in your ear canal. Now the garlic and mullein oil, this is a really good oil you can put in the ear because the garlic and the mullein has been infused in an olive oil and you've strained all of the plant material out. You want to make sure there's no plant material left. And then that oil you can put down inside the ear unless the eardrum has been perforated, and then you wouldn't want to do that. So that's a really easy way. And this garlic and mullein oil is so easy to make. Any of you guys can do this. Coughs, there's been a lot of coughs going around. You can also gargle with salt water. You can take a bowl of hot water, steaming and tent, put your face over. Obviously, be very careful of your sinuses, but put a couple of drops of lavender or tea tree or eucalyptus or peppermint in the water and have that steam go up into your sinuses. And that's really good for congestion. Thyme tea, if anybody grows thyme, it's, just making a tea or a tisane with thyme will help with a cough and a sore throat. Mullein tea is really good for coughs. Honey, all by itself, as long as it's raw honey, and I would say local honey. Honey is amazing all by itself. Local raw honey is a great antibacterial agent. It's really good for burns and skin things. I mean, it's kind of sticky, but if you put a bandage over the top of it. But it's really good for coughs and syrups. The ginger peppermint syrup I have on the handout. Horehound syrup is also really good. It's very bitter. Anybody remember horehound candy from when they were little? Yeah, it's kind of bitter. You got to put a lot of honey or sugar with it. Sometimes you put peppermint with it, but it's really good for coughs. Seasonal issues, once again, elderberry syrup, ginger tea, echinacea, golden seal tinctures or teas. Apple cider vinegar tea is really good for seasonal issues. And then, of course, make sure you're taking your vitamins, your vitamin C, your vitamin D, your zinc, making sure you're getting enough nutrition, healthy nutrition. Okay, next slide. Skin issues. Oh, yes, please.
A seasonal one.
Yes, ma'am.
Chipper days. I haul out an awful lot of wood off our property, and as I get older, my skin gets thinner.
Yeah.
And the least little thing, a log falling on or whatever, particularly the maple, will just rip my skin off. I found that if I use betadine paste and sugar combined, just put it on the wound, I went from a 50-cent piece to a dime in about 10 minutes.
That's awesome. We are going to talk about betadine clay here in a second, so thank you for that. I appreciate it. That's awesome. So skin issues, yeah, for sure. We could use betadine clay that we're going to talk about here in a second. But you could use a lavender and tea tree salve, which I put on the handout. Plantain, we've talked about how to use plantain a little bit. You can also use it in a tea. It's very nutritious. You can actually eat the leaves. They don't taste great, but that's what you had. Plantain leaves. Bentonite clay, as we talked about. You can make a paste with it, and it's really good for drying things out and healing.
So do you buy that? Do we have it?
Bentonite clay, yeah, you can buy it usually in a jar or in a bag.
I like Good Earth.
Good Earth, yeah, would have it. You can get it on Amazon. Yeah, you could get Redmond's clay. That would be a good one. And then, like I said, lavender and tea tree essential oils. For stomach discomfort, activated charcoal is amazing. This is one I would have in every cabinet in my home. So when I was in the Air Force, I went to survival training, and they taught us, it's kind of, it's always stuck with me, but they taught us that if you had black charcoal, it was really good for diarrhea. If you had the white ash, that's really good for constipation. So white for tight, black for slack. That's how I remembered that.
You get activated charcoal.
Activated charcoal you can get in capsules. You can get it at Good Earth. You can get it at Whole Foods. You can get it at Sprouts. You can get it on Amazon. I would get it in the capsules. It's less messy that way. But it's super helpful for digestive upset. It's also really good if you get food poisoning. It helps. So what the charcoal does is it latches on to the yucky stuff in your system and helps get it through. So bentonite clay we've talked about. You can also take that internally. I wouldn't take a lot at a time. I'd make sure that I mixed it in a lot of water before I took it and just kept drinking a lot of water. Ginger tea, peppermint tea, cardamom tea. Cardamom is a carminative is what they call it. It's a fancy word for it helps to get gas out. So that's really good. Congestion, we can use eucalyptus and tea tree oil. And salve, you can make your own salves like we talked about. Put it on your chest. Probably some of you remember mustard plaster, right? Which is also really good, just harder to find these days. Peppermint tea and mullein tea are also really good for congestion. Recipes, I have the handout up here that you guys can come take at the end. All right, next. Other helpful items for your kit. So honey. Honey is great to have in your medicinal kit. Bentonite clay, we talked about that a little bit for skin and digestion. Arnica is one that we haven't talked about. It's also a flower. It's really good for burns. Typically you'll get arnica in a salve or a lotion. And you can make your own salves and lotion with arnica if you grow arnica, or you can get it at the health food store. Very good for burns. Apple cider vinegar is also really good for digestion. It's good for making tinctures. Epsom salts. Epsom salts are amazing for baths or a foot soak. Magnesium, probably most of us in here are lacking in magnesium. We're magnesium deficient.